Shabbat Shalom, and this is 10 minutes of Torah. Not 30 days of sounding the shofar, there's only 29 of those, and not 8 weeks of haftarot of comfort, there's only 7 of those, but there is always 10 minutes of Torah. Well, before beginning speaking about 10 minutes of Torah, next week there will be a little break. I will be away. So these 10 minutes of Torah are going to have to cover you for 2 whole weeks. But I'll be back in 2 weeks with another 10 minutes of Torah, hopefully. In the meantime, we are almost in the middle of the time between Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av, commemorating the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, and Rosh Hashanah. This is week 3. There's only 4 more to go, something that sends great fear into the hearts of rabbis and cantors alike. Actually, we also look forward to the high holidays because it's a great chance to speak to the entire congregation and to the community and share some of our thoughts. Well, that's for another time. But in the meantime, this week, the Torah portion is re'eh. Re'eh is a really interesting word in Hebrew. It occurs many, many times in different forms in the Torah. And it means to see. We are being commanded at the beginning to see exactly what it is that God gives to us as Moses is getting ready to depart, and we are getting ready, literally, to have life without Moses. So the first words are Re'eh Anochi Noten Lifnechem Hayom Bracha Uklala. See, Re'eh, I have set before you today a blessing and a curse. Of course, the blessings come when we follow God's words, and the curses come if we don't. What's interesting about that word re'eh is, like in English, the word to see in Hebrew has multiple meanings. Of course, it means looking at something, I see. But it also means, both in English and in Hebrew, I understand. So, as we say in English, I see what you're saying. That doesn't mean I literally have seen your words. It means I understand what you're saying. And the same is true here in Hebrew. See, I have set before you this day. It doesn't really mean take a look at the Torah or whatever Moses might have had for the people, maybe, huge stone pillars with writing on it. We don't really know. But he doesn't mean look at them. Moses means understand. Because when you start to understand that life can be filled with blessings and curses, and that you can influence those blessings and curses, not, of course, entirely. Natural phenomena obviously can be very much of a curse to people. Good things can happen accidentally, but we do actually have a lot of things in our lives that produce blessings or consequences that aren't so great, which we could call curses. So this week's Torah portion begins with that admonition that we have that kind of a choice. It continues, though, with the laws concerning sanctuaries, interestingly. Sanctuary, just like at Temple Bethel, a place of worship, a place of holiness. And in this case, the original sanctuary was a place of sacrifices, because that's how our ancestors prayed, with sacrifices. The closest thing we have to that, of course, is the Pesach meal, but for another time in the spring. So the sacrifices, it says in this week's Torah portion, are going to be in one location. It doesn't say where, but of course we know that will be Jerusalem. Originally, sacrifices could be offered in many locations, not just Jerusalem. We know that because the Bible itself talks about different bamot, as they are called, different high places where we could worship God. So some of the names you're very familiar with. Beth El, there we go. That's one of the two places, Beit El, the house of God. And then Moses continues. It's kind of a mixture of lots of different themes here in the Torah portion. Tells people to be aware of false prophets who might lead them astray. And then some of the laws which govern holiness in our lives. It speaks of the basic laws of kashrut, the concept which is, I just think, at the heart of Judaism, tithing, ma'aser, giving 10% of what we have. It's actually not even considered giving 10%. It's really more the part that isn't yours, finding someone who it could go to. And then it lists at the end the pilgrimage festivals, all three of them. So that is what's going on in the Torah portion. And as I said, it's kind of an interesting mixture, blessings and curses. Of course, the curses are always greater than the blessings, but that's how life goes, right? 9 great things happen to you and 1 bad thing happens. That 1 bad thing can overcome, if you will, all of the good things. So that's one piece of it. But the other thing that I really want to talk about today is not what's in the Parsha, what's in the Torah portion, but this time of year. Saturday night and Sunday begin the month of Elul. Now, Elul has 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. So that would be Sunday and Monday. It's a little bit complicated, but what happens when you have 2 days is that the month is considered to be 30 days long, but you kind of borrowed from the last month, that is the 30th day of the last month, becomes Rosh Chodesh of this month. And so on Sunday will be kind of a regular Rosh Chodesh, but leading into the special types of observances that we have that are associated with the month of Elul, 1 month prior to the high holidays. And what are those observances? Well, on Monday, so now that we, 30th, the Sunday is Rosh Chodesh, but is also considered to be not the first of Elul, but actually the 30th of the previous month, the month of Av. So on Monday, not Sunday, but on Monday, we'll begin sounding the shofar after every Shachrit morning service, not on Shabbat, but on every other day. It's a very powerful lesson. First of all, the shofar is the greatest symbol that we have of Rosh Hashanah. Not apples and honey, not brisket. It's the shofar. It's the shofar that really attracts us to this holiday. It's the shofar that reminds us that we have yearnings that we can't always articulate. That's what the shofar tells us. A lot more I could say about the shofar. But we're going to sound it every day in anticipation of Rosh Hashanah, except the day before Rosh Hashanah, where we'll take a break. We have to have a little bit of distance, if you will. So actually, I said 29 days. It's really 28 days of the sounding of the shofar. So that's one piece of getting ready. It tells us that we can't approach Rosh Hashanah without preparation. Anything in life that is truly meaningful requires us to prepare for it. And that is certainly true as we begin a new year. So every day we hear the shofar. Some people take it upon themselves to study something different every day in this month. A little verse or two, something from Pirkei Avot, many different possibilities. But that is a part of their preparation for the high holidays. And the other piece I mentioned are the Haftarot, not 8, but 7. 7 Haftarot, marking a complete period of time from the transition of destruction, which almost ended the people of Israel, but it didn't, obviously. Here we are today. And we go from there to a new year. And that's a gradual process, and we are the 3rd week of that process, where instead of just receiving comfort, which is how we began in the first week, we begin to see the world through a sense of beauty, through a sense of how God hopefully would have us look at the world. And that's what this week's Haftarah speaks of. Well, this has been 10 minutes of Torah, not 30 days of sounding the shofar. There will be 28 of those, and not 8 haftarot of comfort. There are 7, and this is the third week. But 10 minutes of Torah. We will see you in 2 weeks. Shabbat Shalom.